All right.
What's happening?
What's happening, man? So, hello, everyone. I'm not sure which camera it's on. Welcome to the interview, episode 19. Great Orrin Evans is here. We just got through playing a super fun set. I haven't seen you since we played at Chris's.
Yep.
That was the first live stream I did with a live audience
That might
since
have
the
been mine.
pandemic.
Yeah. Might have been mine too.
I think it was. I think that was the second night that they had started the live audience again.
Yep.
Did it get shut down again?
No. I played there last night. Well,
okay.
But they're still only doing streams. There's no people.
Okay.
It's
So
just,
the live audience is
no
more.
live audience. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
here we are.
Here we are.
It continues. We were just talking about I mean, it doesn't look like this summer is going to be back to normal.
No. I mean, it just as long as this doesn't become the new norm, but it's going to be another summer of getting everything together. It looks like getting it safer.
Well, you got your first dose of the vaccine.
Yep.
Just like Adam Rogers, Adam came over here after the first dose. He was like, "Look, I made it this far. I'm keeping the mask on. Get my second dose. I'll come back over. We can take the masks off."
Yep. My second dose is on.
Why push it at this point?
Wednesday. Whatever. No, 2 weeks. 30th.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you for being here in the middle of all of this mess. And I know there's some other stuff happening.
Yeah.
Back home. Nothing personal. Just
No. Just moving and stuff. Logistics.
Moving. Yeah. No. In that regard, you're one of the most successful people I know when it comes to family.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, man, you were born. I call you the mayor of Philly, but you were born in Trenton, though, right? And then you were raised in Philly.
Yeah, I moved to Philly when I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, Trenton is definitely home for me, but I mean, music and everything else, happened in Philly.
Right.
Turn that over.
I was looking at it just to make sure that.
No, I didn't want to see it on the screen.
No, I was like, there's no sound. But Okay, so you consider Trenton like home? Your parents are still around?
No, both my parents are gone, but they were both from Philly.
Okay.
They moved to Trenton because my father was a college professor.
Okay.
And started teaching at Trenton State College in the African American Studies Department.
Okay.
So that's pretty much why we moved to Trenton. And,
right.
We were there pretty much all that time. He taught there till he passed, almost 40 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But how did the music thing start? He wasn't.
He also taught. Well, my mother was an opera singer.
Okay.
That's number one, and then my father taught a jazz history course, and pretty much was hardcore into just jazz and classical. So if you got in his car, that's what you were listening to.
Right.
There was no option. Which is so funny because now.
But did you like it? Yeah. Did you like it back then?
I didn't know I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't know I liked it until I moved to Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Philly, I was hardcore into freestyle.
Right.
I wanted to be just watch the movie Rad all day and learn how to BMX. That was my life. But then when I got to Philly, I moved to a block that was all older people. It was no kids at all.
Yeah.
But when I was in Trenton, it was kids all up and down the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find, a new love. And there was always a piano in our house. So, and I played around with it. And I just started playing it more around that time.
Okay.
So that became my new passion. And that's why I appreciate Philly. Because I know if I stayed in Trenton, I would have never found music. That would have never been where I was going to go.
It's funny you mentioned the freestyle BMX thing, because that was the funny thing is that we're 3 years apart. So you're 3 years older than I am. But so then we were around when that was huge, man.
Totally.
And my friends who were all 3 years older than me, 5 years older than me, they were all everybody had a BMX, or they had a Hutch,
Yep,
or
a
they
Hutch.
had a
Yep.
Diamondback.
Skyway.
I had both. I had a Hutch. All my bikes, I don't think I had them for more than a month. Man, I grew up in a neighborhood that's kind of very similar to Bed-Stuy, except it was extremely divided. It was like one side mostly Mexican American, and the other side, well, Mexican and Mexican American,
Right.
and then the other side African American. And man, it was like you couldn't have anything back then, man. Like if somebody saw you on something nice, good luck. If you, you know, especially like I looked so out of place, even though my family was like Mexican, but they thought I was white, so they were just like, "Oh, that's a kid.
Get that bike.
You just said, get off the bike." Just like you don't even argue. You're just like, get off the bike. Go.
I saw my bike got stolen when I moved to Philly, and I was so mad. I had a Predator. I had gotten this like Schwinn Predator.
Yeah.
And I saw the bike. Like I saw it. I was a camp counselor, not a camp, like a junior camp counselor, like 13 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like at a 7-Eleven. I'm like, that's my bike. And yeah, I didn't get it back. Let me just put it like that.
Oh,
I went over to the dude, and I'm like, and he had like 7 guys around him. I was like, you know what?
Oh, no.
That bike is gone.
That's the same thing. I mean, that happened so many times with my stuff, my brother's stuff. Like, you know, you go to someone's house and you see like, you know, I remember I went to a friend's house. We went into his brother's room, and my brother's stereo had it blasting in the room. Like my brother's stereo that had been stolen from our house. Somebody broke in our house. Went to this guy's house. It was there, but everybody in the room had a gun. So I was just like, I just sat in the corner. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
That looks a lot like my stereo.
But they were bold. They were like, they knew where they got the stereo, and they knew that it was my brother's. But they were just like, yeah, man, come in. What's up, bro? It's like, I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And they're like, no, don't say a word. Anyway. Man, so you went to Rutgers?
I went to Rutgers. For a semester, 2 semesters.
Yeah.
And then I left and went back to Philly to book and manage this jazz club that had just opened. And that was about another year.
That?
It's called the Blue Moon.
Wow. There was a Blue Moon in Houston.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah. There
was
another
people would play there too.
Another Blue Moon in Philly, but that was different.
Was it? Okay.
It was like a little cheesy down. No, it was like a hotel you don't want to go to.
Wow. Okay.
But at Blue Moon, I met so many people. You know, I mean, a lot of people. Tim Warfield. That's where I first met Clarence Penn, Stephon Harris, because everybody was coming through. It was really I first met Hutch there. A lot of people, because they were coming through the club, and I was booking and managing it, and I did the sound. So when I left at that time, 19, 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much kind of why I left Rutgers. I should have stayed. I mean, well, I don't know if I should have stayed because I don't have too many regrets. But you know, because I ended up going on the road, met Bobby Watson, so it all worked out. But it was definitely, you know, for me, Rutgers was great. Had a lot of fun, learned from a lot of great people.
Was Ralph already teaching there? Ralph Bowen.
Ralph was teaching, and that's where I met Ralph.
Okay.
And he was my theory professor. And did I have him for ensemble? No, I just had him for theory.
Yeah.
And we became really close, you know. Still one of my best friends.
And you play on one of his albums.
Yep, I play on 2 of them. I play on the one with Gregory Hutchinson and Reuben Rogers and Ryan Kaiser. It's called Shoot. I can't remember what it's called. It's not called Shoot. But
it's called Shoot.
It's on Crisscross. And then we did another one together on Positone.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I did a record with him on Positone.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yep.
But I got a funny Ralph Bowen story. The whole way I met him was probably around the same time that you were going to Rutgers. And I called. I had just done this thing. My high school, they would pick one person to get a scholarship to go to Jamie Aebersold summer workshop.
Right.
And so I went to this Jamie Aebersold summer workshop the summer of my junior year. And I was in David Baker's ensemble, which was like the top ensemble at that workshop. And he told me he was teaching. I don't. He gave me his info. He was super cool. He sent me like a video of Wes Montgomery live, like that. This was before YouTube, you know, like way before, you know, so actual VHS tape.
Right.
And he sent it to me in the mail, which was super cool. But then I randomly called him one day, just out of had no idea if he would know who Ralph Bowen was. But I called him. I was like, man, is there any by chance you have like Ralph Bowen's number? And I'm trying to get in touch with him because I transcribed all this music from this Out of the Blue record.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, you got to call Rutgers. And he gave me he had his number, and I called him. That's how I first met Ralph.
Wow.
It's like when I was like 17 or 18 years old in high school, and like called him up to check if I had the right changes.
If you had the right changes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. But man, let's see. How did you, so you were playing with Bobby, and when I moved to New York, me and Glasper, one of my most vivid memories, it's funny, I don't remember who else was playing in the band, but it was Ralph's band. You were on piano. It was at Smalls. And I think it was the first time I had seen you play and Robert had seen you play. And man, that band was killing. It would have been like 1997 or 8. Do you remember who was in the do you remember playing with Ralph at that time?
I do, but I actually think it
wasn't
Smalls.
No?
If I remember right,
it could have been another place.
It was Metronome. Do you remember? It was on Broadway.
Oh, wait.
It was on Broadway. Like Metronome was on Broadway, like near 27th or 28th, I think. Because I remember you guys being there, and the band was my band. It was me, Ralph, and Rodney Whitaker, and depending on which night, because we played 2 nights.
Right.
Then we left. One night it was Ralph and Sam.
Sam, it was Metronome then.
Yep. I remember that. It was one night because we actually ended up leaving in the middle of the gig. Like, it got deep.
Really?
But yeah. But I definitely remember that gig. I remember Robert sitting up front. I remember getting on the bandstand talking to y'all. Metronome was a cool little spot.
It was a cool spot.
Yep.
But man, that was a killing gig.
Oh, thank you.
And you were like, I felt like you were like half of the time you were like off the piano stool. Like you would play a chord and your whole body would come off the bench. It was like you were jumping and like midair, like just floating. Like I remember that like vivid memory of you.
That was some good lessons.
You were
playing
so
with
hype.
Ralph.
Like just the comping was so hype.
Oh man,
it was killing though.
You.
Man, and Ralph was killing.
Yeah.
And man, so did you know like how close were you with him during this last like? I didn't even really know what was up. He just passed. Of anyone, we're talking about the great Ralph Peterson, drummer, and who just passed. What, 2 weeks ago? Or?
About 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely knew what was going on, and I went up to see him, and I actually just wrote liner notes for the last record he did, trio record with Zakai and Luquez. Yeah, it's funny because during the pandemic, I lost a lot of people. You know, like my godmother, my godbrother, a lot of people.
Was it to COVID or was it just coincidence?
No, actually, no one to COVID.
Okay.
You know, well, except Wallace. You know, who was probably the first one, and we did a record a week before he passed. You know.
Oh, I think we were talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was like Ralph. By the time he passed, I was like, not that anybody is never tired, but I'm tired of death. I'm just like, come on.
Right.
But I was glad I got the time to celebrate with him. We all went up and saw him maybe a week before he passed. It was a good group of people. We just went and hung out with him, and he played some music from his new record, and just a beautiful spirit, and someone that kept me on my toes for the past. We met in 93, at that same club, at Blue Moon Jazz Club. That's where I first met Ralph Peterson.
My first record date was a record that Ralph played drums on with Jeremy Pelt.
Oh, right. That I love that record.
Profile, I think it's
I
called.
like that record. That's a great record.
But I was so excited to play with Ralph, and I remember the rehearsal. The rehearsal was in my building where I lived, and Glasper lived there too. So me and Glasper lived downstairs from Jeremy, not directly under him. So we just like walked up, upstairs, up the stairs, and I took my amp, and Robert took a keyboard, and then I just remember Ralph playing like Ralph, just like killing, like loud.
In the apartment.
In the apartment. I was just like,
which
wow,
apartment you're talking about.
The neighbors must be like, what the hell is going on, man?
I actually found a picture of us doing a rehearsal in that apartment.
In Jeremy's apartment?
There
was so much music in that apartment.
Maybe, it might have been for the second quintet record we did with Ralph.
Okay.
I found it right when he passed. A friend of
mine. The Art of War,
picture.
Is that the one?
The Art of War is the first one.
Okay.
And I think this rehearsal was for the second one, which is Subliminal Seduction.
Subliminal
production.
blah, blah, blah. But, so, I remember Jeremy telling me, well, the Art of War, you're saying that was the first one?
Art of War is the first one.
That was supposed to be released on September 11th, 2001, right?
Yep.
And it was called the Art of War.
Yep.
And then September 11th, of course, happens. Or actually
it did come out
because no one knew that morning, right? So then
it did come out. We did the release party at Smoke, and I remember Bilal, sitting in on most of the gig.
Really?
Yeah, it was a weird, that was actually my first time back in New York. After that gig for that release party was my first time.
Okay.
Back in New York, I'll never forget that day.
Yeah. I just remember being with Jeremy. When the buildings were on fire, the World Trade Center was on fire, I called Jeremy. He was like, or he called me, I can't remember. Either way, I ended up in his apartment and we were watching it on the news. And he was like, damn, man. He was like, Ralph's record came out today. Like, it's called The Art of War, bro. And I was like, what? He was like, this shit is crazy. And then I was sitting next to Jeremy as that first building fell on live television, and we even went up to the rooftop before that, and we were looking at the buildings burning, like seeing it with our own eyes. Then we went back down because we were like, oh, they're just on fire. That's crazy. And then we were watching it on the news, and then when it fell, I just got up and left.
Yeah.
I just walked out of Jeremy's apartment. I was like, I don't even remember what I did. Like, but I was like, yo, Jeremy, I don't want to be here. You're not the last person I want to see. So I was like, I'm going to get up out of here and I'm going to call somebody that I do want to see. Because I don't know what's going to happen next.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was back.
It was out. It was like, I don't think I've ever felt anything like that where it was like, wow, we're going to experience some real shit like in the next couple of hours.
Well, my wife worked before we came back to... This was 97, 98. She worked at the World, Trade Center. So it was like, I was just sitting there looking at it like, whoa.
Yeah.
We just missed this by a year.
Wait, did you say Dawn?
Yeah, she worked there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like...
During that time, when did you meet Dawn? I mean,
96.
I was going to ask you about that later, but okay, so you guys were already well into it. 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years into it by that point. I met her at a jam session that Dennis Jeter, the trumpet player, used to run.
Okay.
And that night, it was a sax duo of Mark Shim and J.D. Allen. Okay. So I went down there to check that out, and she was there. That's where we met. And I actually went there with Ralph and Mark Shim. So, everybody was there that night and when I first met her. Wow. So by the time the towers went down, I was like, wow, you were working there.
Yeah. I almost went there the night before.
Oof.
I was that used to be like my little spot, like the Battery Park at night. And I was on a date with this girl. She was actually like a neighbor of mine. For like a year or two, she was living in the building right underneath Jeremy. And so we got kind of close, and we were hanging in Central Park. And I was like, we should go down to Battery Park and hang by the water. And she was like, it's a little bit cold. She was like, it's going to be cold. I was like, yeah, let's just chill here. Like, let's stay. But we actually almost went there. That would have been really crazy.
Yeah.
To be there just like a few hours before. Man, that was a crazy time.
Definitely.
Were you already playing with Bobby Watson
Yeah,
at the time?
definitely.
Because
my first tour with Bobby was 97.
Yeah.
And that was with no, sorry. My first tour with Bobby was 97. But the second tour was right after that. The first tour was with, he had done this like electric band called Urban Renewal. And that was with Will Calhoun and John Benitez.
Yeah.
And Greg Scaff. But then the next tour was me, Essie, and Rodney Green. So and that all happened.
Alfredo.
Alfredo. Yeah, Alfredo.
Rodney told me that story. That's not a story. That's a story I can share. So Rodney.
It's not that bad.
Yeah,
no,
Rodney went. His first tour in Europe, I think, was with Bobby. Right? Was that your first tour?
No, that wasn't my first tour, but that was I was on that tour with him.
Okay, so Rodney told me that, or at least his first time in Italy, and he didn't know what to order. You know, he was in all these Italian restaurants. All the menus were like in Italian, and so he kept ordering spaghetti Alfredo or something like that. And they were just looking at him like, "What the hell are you talking about, Alfredo? Like, there's no Alfredo. He doesn't work here. No Alfredo working here." And so then it wasn't until like then Bobby would just be dying laughing, and then it wasn't until later they're like, "Bro, like Alfredo sauce doesn't exist in Italy. Like it's a totally American like made up thing." So then that was his nickname.
Right, I know.
At least Bobby still calls him like Alfredo.
I mean but the year before that I was out with them, and I was just I would just order. Because I eat everything. I would just point, and I'm not like I would just try stuff. So we got risotto. Well, I ordered risotto, same band. But this was Bobby with Ronnie Barrage and Curtis Lundy before Rodney came on. And I was like, yeah, I'll get the risotto, mushroom risotto, whatever. And it came out, and I'm eating it. And I was like, man, this tastes like rice. And everybody everybody thought that was hilarious.
Oh, man.
And we all had that story.
Everybody has a story about their those first couple of trips to Europe where you just totally embarrass yourself. It's just like totally American mistakes,
Yeah.
Man, I can't remember if that's I definitely met Greg Scaff for the first time at a Bobby Watson gig that you were playing on. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I met you on that gig with Ralph.
Yeah, I remember that gig.
Yeah,
I remember that gig.
But Bobby and I became friends with Lafia. She did photography.
Yeah.
She did photography. So Lafia Watson is Bobby's daughter, and who I might have met. I can't remember how I met Lafia, to be honest.
I think it was probably on a gig or something like that. I kind of remember now. Man, my memory. I remember everything, and now you're saying something like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember when you. It was around that time when y'all met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But me and Lafia started hanging out, and Jalil Shaw, we're all friends, and she ended up doing photography.
She did my website around
photography.
that time. Yeah.
She helped me with my website, and and then I got to know Bobby. And one of the coolest memories I have of hanging with Lafia was there was one year for her for Bobby's birthday or it was Christmas or something, where she took all of Bobby's photos from the road from the 70s and the 80s, like the developed photos. She had a whole box, all out of order. She put them all in order, kind of as best she could in chronological order, of all these tours with Blakey and everything, studio photos, and she put them in albums.
Wow.
And she organized it, and that was his birthday present.
Wow.
And so I was just looking through all these photos, like Marvin Smitty Smith and Blakey, the Blakey band with everybody in Europe wearing cowboy hats and shit. And I was like, wow, that was the vibe. It was a trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, so who else were you so Bobby, Ralph's band you were playing with back then? I mean, you're from Philly, so you're associated so highly with Philly. That scene is crazy, bro.
It definitely is.
Christian McBride, Kurt Rosenwinkel, Pat Martino, Jimmy Bruno. Who's
Joey DeFrancesco,
yeah,
Byron Landon, Jalil, Jonathan Blake, Bilal. I'm going to forget somebody and feel bad.
Of course,
Little John Roberts, There were tons, you know,
So
some
much.
Ari
Ari
Honig,
Honig, Justin Faulkner.
Justin Faulkner, yeah.
The Eubanks.
The Eubanks, the entire
whole
Eubanks family, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, Dwayne, and Kevin's on on that one record.
And we have a little duo project together that we finished the record, but we finished it right before the pandemic.
Kevin?
Yeah, just duo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're working.
Oh, man, I got to hear that.
That project is we're hoping to release it in the next year, but we put it on hold because the world went on hold.
Right.
You know?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that's just the amount of music from Philly is crazy.
It's definitely amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, when I moved to New York, people like Nasheet Waits, you know, connected me with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Hammy Blew It, I was in his band.
Right.
Back then. Tons of people, you know, Nasheet was really a catalyst for introducing me to a whole nother group of musicians that I probably would have never met.
Right.
You know, when back Antonio Hart's band,
Mm-hmm.
I was in that for, man, maybe 2 or 3 years with different drummers, from Nasheet to Camille Gaynor. There were only 2 drummers, but a bunch of different bass players. So we had just a good time playing with different people. But back then, because there was no social media or none of that, it was just like, hey, you should give him a call.
Yeah.
You know, check him out,
Right.
or give her a call and check her out. So I appreciate people like Nasheet.
Right.
When I moved to a town, and Dwayne Eubanks, who,
Man, did you ever call people like well, I mean, obviously if you would call somebody for a gig without hearing them sometimes, but based off a recommendation, but if you had a gig with your own band, did you ever call people on the phone and be like, yo, I have a gig, like we're playing at this spot? I remember doing that kind of stuff. Like you would call people on the phone at home. They would pick up. You're like, yo,
exactly.
yo,
People
I'm
would
playing with my band like this
Yep.
night. You want to come out? It was like before text message.
Yep.
You would call people, man.
Yeah.
You would call, like it would be like cooking at home, and it's like, yo, what's up? Oh, you got a gig on Friday? Okay.
Or you get the answer machine. Dwayne Berno had the best answer machine, the best, and I knew he would be sitting there listening to it. He'd be like, if you're calling me about a gig.
Right.
Leave all pertinent information, including monetary information, and I will get back to you. Like, I mean, and I'm like, all right, well, let me just leave everything on here.
Yeah.
And then halfway through it, he would pick up the phone. Berno, I'm sorry, that's another person from Philly.
Yeah.
That we didn't say. Stafford Hunter.
Yeah, Stafford.
You know, but yeah, it was really cool. You know, I would be like, oh, let me just leave everything on here. Right. So Berno was probably the beginning of the text messaging thing. It was just like, just leave it here as your voice, and then I'll decide if I want to get back to you.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah, another one that Berno's like way too early, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Dwayne was from Philly, or was he just?
Dwayne was from West Philly. Gene Jackson, another one we forgot. Yeah. Dude,
it's crazy how many cats are from there.
Yeah.
So when you did I was asking you about this earlier, but man, your first record is in '95, so you were just 19 years old.
Well, I was 20. When did we do the record? We did it in the summer, so I was 20.
Okay.
I just turned 20.
You just turned 20.
And at that time, what's his name? Keith Jarrett. I'm sorry, not what's his name, but Keith Jarrett had just done a record. What's that guy's name? He had just done Live at Deerhead Inn.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, man, I love this record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't so much. I mean, it was. Excuse me, hiccups. It wasn't so much because of Paul Motion and Gary Peacock, which were great, but I love the sound of the record.
Yeah, yeah.
So I opened it and I'm like, oh man, Kent Heckman. And so I looked him up and I found where his studio was, which was Red Rock, out there in the Poconos. And I just, that record date was the saddest day of my life. Like, the record was great, but it just broke up with. I'm not gonna say I broke up. This girl had just broke up with me, So I had to take the musicians home, and I had to drop them off at their house,
Yeah.
And they were going in, and their wives met them at the door, and they were like, "Bye, see you."
Oh man.
And I'm just driving around. I think I still had my crap in the trunk. Like,
right.
I didn't even have a place to live. And I did that record, and I was just driving around. I was like, and so listening to that record now, I'm like, yeah, it was cool. But ironically, a year and a half later, I met my wife, and she started getting me into the grant world, and we re-released the record again. Deja Vu.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, and I think she came up with that title, and I was like, wow.
Was that based off the fact that it was recorded earlier? And
recorded earlier, yeah, you know. But it's also based on the fact that it was a much better time the second time.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes deja vu is like, yeah, it's better the second time. But so that was the start of your like band leader recording career. But you've done 27 albums or something? How many?
Something like, I've got to count them now.
It's
but they were
crazy.
basically based on the fact that
I got to do 20. Like that means in the next 3 years to catch up with you, I have to do 21 records.
I mean, a lot of that was Jerry Teekins, and
ORRIN,
every one a year.
You got a band?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was his thing. ORRIN.
Are there smokers?
Jerry
Is
Teekins.
it going to be killing? Burners or whatever. Give me a burner.
Do you have music? I'm going to be in town in October.
I know. They were like great rent dates, you know?
Yeah, it was just a gig. It was like getting called to do a gig.
Getting called to do a gig.
And sometimes I would be like, Jerry, not this year, or not this month, or, not next, call me in the next round. So I would say for every 3 times Jerry called me, I did 1 record.
Yep.
But yeah, he called a lot of times where I was just like, I just don't want to do it.
Well, and my not the first 3, but the second, the third and the third and the fourth are almost 1 record date, because we did the second one, and he thought, I featured the horn players too much, and I needed.
That was Just in Time or something?
No, the second one was Captain Black.
Okay, which led to the name of the big band.
Led to the name of the big band, which is only a tobacco that my father smoked.
Okay.
So that's why I named it that.
Yeah.
So, and in the original picture for the album cover, I had one of his pipes.
Oh, wow.
In my hand. He smoked a pipe, but they never used that picture.
Had he already passed at that back then?
No.
Okay.
No, so it was like a tribute to him, but they didn't use that picture, and they ended up using a picture.
Probably the worst photo they had of you.
You know what I mean? They ended up using the picture from the first record. If you look at Captain Black and Just in Time, they're kind of like, if you look at Dwayne Eubanks' first 2 records.
Pictures of you. Exactly. We're just going to use the second one again. We used the first one.
Exactly. So that's exactly what happened.
Jerry is doesn't care.
And he did. He was like, we're going to do another record date. So my third record date, I recorded, and the second one wasn't even out. Because he wanted to take some tracks from the third one to put on the second one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of why we had these records back to back.
Okay.
And I had 2 kids at that time, so I was never saying no when he called at that time.
Yeah.
I was like,
sure, I'll do how many?
Sure,
2?
yeah, let's do a record. Let's do a record date.
Let's do 2 of them.
I wish I had said no sometime.
Right. Yeah. But so you did 7 records, 7, I counted 7 records on Crisscross.
Yeah, sounds right.
From that time, but then you also did some stuff for Positone, Palmetto, and Imani. Imani is that's yours.
That's my
your
label.
label.
Yeah, that's my label. Yeah.
But then you started recording for Smoke.
For Smoke.
Smoke Sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is actually, probably been one of the most rewarding experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, Crisscross was great. It was what it was. Positone, I have no problem. I freaking hate it. I hate it every moment on that label.
Yeah.
I love y'all, but I hate it every moment on that label.
I hate the paycheck.
Yeah, that too. You know what I mean? I don't
do those record days. I started saying no to a bunch of those kind of.
Yeah, I can't.
We know what they pay.
Yeah, exactly.
At least as a sideman.
At least even as a leader, I was just like, man, and I mean there are records out there. Go buy them. Y'all can still buy them. You know what I mean? But they were and I enjoyed playing them. I mean, I got a great one with Lucas and Lucas Curtis and She Waits that I love.
Right.
But I mean that experience was just not cool.
Yeah, they were rough. I mean, I've always thought that those labels. I mean, thank God they're around and we had them, or if they're still around, they're still around. But I've always thought, like, what if for every 3 records they did 1 good one?
Yeah.
Just put 3 records worth of money into 1 record and make it sound killing. Give the
Mm-hmm.
guys 2 days in the studio, mix for 2 days, and
Yep.
and master in a day, instead of doing everything in an hour and a half.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. Totally. I
yeah.
agree.
But I mean, that's how that's why. So I did 3 of my own records with my own money. Then I did 3 records for Crisscross. So that's why I would always say no to Jerry, because I was like, I'm working on something on my own, and then let's do something in between,
Right.
because that gives me some time to write, at least a year to write some more tunes.
Exactly.
So yeah. Also, I didn't realize that Amani was your own label.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then, how did Smoke Sessions? Were you just how did that come? Because
Well,
I remember just that's Paul's
Mhm.
label, and then it started first just live recordings, right? Or
Yeah,
was
they
it
were
always,
doing.
always live.
It was always live at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and even when I joined, it was still live. But I only did one live. Well, I have another one coming out soon. It'll be out this summer.
The
That's
big band.
live. No, we did a quartet record during COVID.
Oh,
So
okay.
keep your eyes and ears out with Emmanuel Wilkins, Bill Stewart,
Ooh.
and
Yeah.
Vicente.
Oh, that's an interesting band.
Yeah, it's
Well,
really
I know Vicente and Bill play a lot with Sko.
yeah, and
So
and
but
Nicholas,
Emmanuel throwing
yeah,
in, yeah.
and Emmanuel thrown into it. So it's really that was. But they started out doing all live, and then after a while, Paul moved into doing some of them in the studio, and we've done.
I missed a date. I was gonna do one Smoke Sessions date, and I don't even want to talk about it, but I missed it due to an extreme error on my part
Got you.
with a flight. Yeah,
Oh
but that
wow!
was gonna be the one time I was gonna do a record on Smoke Sessions.
Wow! Oh, as
But
a leader?
no. It
Oh,
was just
okay.
a sideman thing, but I felt really bad, man. Like really bad.
Yeah,
It
it happens.
wasn't. Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
And it wasn't just me that I screwed up. It was like, yeah. People always ask me like if I have a manager, and I say no, I do everything on my own. And why pay somebody 15% of what you make? But that 15%, I would say about 5, due to my mistakes that I make every year, it still ends up being cheaper than having a manager. So I would say it's about half. So I'm saving 7.5%.
I hear you. I hear you.
But
I
yeah.
enjoy them because I always, there's so many balls I'm juggling.
Right.
I mean, I didn't even talk about
Wow.
musically. I know.
Yeah.
that I enjoy it. Not the juggling. Never mind, man. Move on.
Yeah, bro. But those Smoke Sessions, well, first of all, the big band is killing. And
Thank you.
so the story, if I have correct, so you did like something in Portugal, like as a guest, like kind of playing with a big band that
Yep.
led to the idea of doing that?
Straight. I mean, they called me to go. What was it? Guimarães?
Yeah.
So I went over there for 2 weeks, and he asked me to lead a big band, and I was like, "Oh, okay," And I didn't have any arrangements, so I called up a couple people, and ironically, on the way there, I had a layover somewhere. I don't remember where, and I was sitting at a bar, guy sitting in maybe I want to say Chicago, but whatever, one of those airports, and I'm sitting at a bar, and the guy sitting next to me, he's like, "Yeah, I'm in the Navy," and I was like, "Oh, cool, we're just talking." And I said, "Yeah, I'm on my way over to Portugal. I'm a musician." He's like, "Oh, I'm in a Navy band," and I was like, "Oh, for real?" So I tell him I'm going over there
Yeah.
to do a big band thing, and he says, "Man, hold on." He turned out to be the director of the big band. Pulled out a hard drive with like 1 million big band arrangements. And I was like, "Man, take what you want."
Wow.
And I was on my way over there with maybe 3 arrangements.
Yeah.
So I used one of them, but I still have that file on my hard drive of like
That's
all
crazy.
just from having a conversation with this guy. So I went over there and I did the big band. I was like, "Man, this is actually kind of cool."
Right.
And it was one of those slow falls, not a lot going on. So I started the big band at Chris's in Philly, and that was kind of what started it. And talked to Todd Bayshore and other people, and another bass clarinetist who's a arranger, Todd Marcus, out of Baltimore. And, you know, they helped me out with arrangements, and we started doing it every week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it started.
But what I love is what I think I read you were trying to go for, and I think comes through is like, it has that energy of the quartet or a trio. Like, you guys are just going for it. Like,
Definitely.
Killing. Like, drummers killing, like you're killing. And, man, the horn players you got on those records are just,
thank you.
It's killing.
Thank you.
It's like the big band if everybody was just like, yeah, really, really.
And being able to operate as a small group.
Right, yeah. It's a different, everybody's speaking a different language than the traditional big band kind of language, which, yeah, I'm into that shit. So
I appreciate that.
That's some killing records. But you also did like, and you got a Grammy nomination, right?
Yeah, we didn't. Maria Schneider, go ahead. She won. But we were, you know, that's some. It's the second time. Is it the second one? Yeah, the first one was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Then we got a nomination this year.
So you got 2 nominations.
2 nominations.
Oh, killing.
So,
man.
you know,
Congrats.
We'll try to get third one, and then maybe we'll win it on the third one. Yeah. Third one's a charm.
Right.
You know.
Oh man, it's deserving. It's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man. And then you did a record same. So for Smoke Sessions, like which I love. I was really checking it out today. It was the records with the Philly guitar players.
Oh yeah,
Kevin and Kurt.
Yeah.
The K's.
The K's. Yeah, that was
KGs.
Fun. That was a lot of fun. I mean, we had. I'm trying to make. Yeah. We had done the music with Kurt. You know, I think we did like a week at the Standard, and we did a couple other gigs.
Right.
So Kurt was familiar with all the music, and we didn't get a chance to, you know, rehearse with Kevin. So it was so killing. We had no idea what he was going to come in with, and we didn't even rehearse at the studio. Yeah. Like I just counted off the tunes, and it was just a ball. Like, 'cause
was Kevin around when you
he was in town. You know, his mother lives around the corner from me in Philly.
Okay.
So I think he was in Philly around that time, just hanging out with his mom. But it just was so great to hear them both on the same record, because they're two totally different. Yeah, two totally different players. And some of the outtakes I love.
And the records, the first track is with Kevin or Kurt? I can't remember.
I can't remember the first track.
But it's just like there's one track with Kevin and one track with Kurt. And it's one of the first 2 tracks, and it's one of each. And it's just like night and day. But both killing.
Yeah, and then they're on one track together, but you got to really listen.
Okay.
Because they're both doing.
I know which one you're talking. I thought maybe I was like, did Kurt overdub this?
No, there's a Caleb Wheeler Curtis tune.
Okay. Yeah.
And they both just play sounds and stuff, but they're on it together. You know.
I finally met Kevin not too long ago, maybe like a year ago or a year and a half ago, and he was super cool. I couldn't believe there's some guys that I've just never met. Right. Like Kevin. This Kevin, but his mom lives in Philly, but he's in LA. Yeah. So, and same with Benson. Like, I've never even been in the same room as Benson.
Yeah. I mean, see, the earlier days of the Zinc Bar, the old Zinc Bar.
That was right. When I moved to town, Benson wasn't really hanging at the Zinc Bar anymore.
Yeah, he used to come by a lot. So, I mean, I got opportunity to play a couple tunes with him, and just beautiful cat. Right. You know, definitely.
Yeah. But that whole family, man, Dwayne, I knew Dwayne because Dwayne was always around at all the sessions. Like, so then, but it was just like Kevin, and then I knew Robin. Yep. And I really started seeing Robin a lot when I was playing with Liz Wright and Joshua Redmond, because every festival we would be at, Dave Holland's band would be there. Yeah. So then it's like I saw Robin and Chris Potter all the time, like on the road, and Nate Smith and those guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. So, yeah. Philly, bro. Man, so how's everything with the? I was talking the last time I saw you was at Chris's, and then the time before that we did a record with Charlie
Porter.
And Don was there, and I thought Don was coming tonight. She didn't.
Yeah, no,
you guys are
we're in
done,
the middle of moving, so it's
right,
like
right, exactly.
she's with tape
man,
and boxes.
It's rare that I see you without Don. Yeah, but it's always like when you guys walk in the room, it's like a comforting feeling, man. I don't know how to explain it. It's like certain people, you know, Jason Moran and his lady have the same energy. It's like when they walk in the room together, it's just like, oh, it just feels right.
Yeah,
like you guys have been together forever, man. It's like
20 October will be 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you're only 40, 45,
yeah, I met her
45.
40. I'll be 46
so
in 8 days.
More
half my life.
More than half.
I met her when I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. Like you guys were just like during COVID. This is the most time you've ever spent together, right?
Woo! The most ever. I mean, we're both like, wow. You know what I mean? This is the most time we've ever spent together.
It's like the most challenging also time.
Yeah, because it's like you're there. You're just I mean, when I'm off the road, you know, you're probably leaving 2 weeks, so you're leaving 3 weeks. And now it's just like, even just the monotony of like waking up. All right, I'm gonna fix some breakfast. You know, all right, then what are you gonna do? And then she's working from home, so she's right there. You know, all day we're just like, you know. So actually, the move now that we're moving,
it gives you something else.
It gives us another opportunity to think. And honestly, when I think about when I use the term normal, I'm just saying non-artists.
Right.
When I think about normal people, that's what they do. It amazes me that people honestly are around their mate
every night or
every day. Night. Like I've never in 20 years, that's never been my life.
Right.
You know, I've enjoyed, if this makes sense, I've enjoyed missing her. You know what I mean? That was like, oh, let me go on the road. See you when I get back. Right. You know, the whole plane ride back. It's like, oh, and then we'll hit our restaurant. We'll you know, that every part of my life, if anything, with COVID, every part of my life I enjoyed missing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even our favorite restaurant, it was like, man, I can't wait to go back.
Can't wait to get back. Yeah.
And we hit our favorite restaurant, you know, but now when you have the option to go to your favorite restaurant every day, that's just not that's not what I'm used to.
Yeah, right.
It's like now I don't even like that restaurant no more, you know? And now I'm not comparing my wife to a restaurant. I'm just saying everything
I know what you mean.
Need to it's really been interesting. You know, I mean, one of the things that's been great is just finding new series that we'll check out. Be like, hey, you should check this out. And we enjoy a series that'll give us a month of watching every episode of something. You know?
Yeah.
But it's new.
I mean, it's weird for me because this is one of the times in my life where I've been single like during this whole time. So it's been like another experience.
Right.
I was like, I wonder how this would have been if it was like anywhere from 2000, you know, so and so to so and so, like when I was really living with, you know, my ex and stuff like that. It would have definitely been challenging because I remember even times where, because she would go to work and I would have the whole day.
Yeah.
The whole day at home to just like play, practice, write, you know, do things. And then she would come home and we'd be like, yo, like, you know, let's hang.
That is
or I would be on the road for 2 weeks and then come back and the same thing. Like, you're just like, man, I can't wait to go back and hit this restaurant or this bar and like do this, you know, whatever. I mean, that whole routine was great. And she loved it too. Like, as far as like, she was like, I miss you when you're gone, but it's also great that you're gone.
Yeah. I mean, that was when Dawn would do everything around the house. Like, she'd be like, oh, I started doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you know. So I kind of want to, in one way, give her the space.
Well, that's what you're doing today, man.
That's what I'm doing today. Although I just left her with boxes and tape and scissors.
Yeah, I got to go out of town, baby. I'm going to Brooklyn. Yeah, that's why I was surprised. I was like, oh, she's coming with you. I was like, okay.
No, not this time. But she did want to come. I mean, and honestly, when we came through, when I got off the Verrazano, man, driving through Brooklyn, you know, that's where we started. So It's beautiful always coming in the park. It was just a beautiful day.
Right.
And I drove by a park where I used to take my son bike riding all the time at Washington, and remembering all of us living over there. So it was a good stroll down memory lane.
Right. Have you talked, before we wrap up, you studied with Kenny Barron, right? Like at Rutgers. Have you talked to him lately? I tried to get him to come on here.
I talked to him right before all of this.
Oh, okay. How's he doing?
Yeah, I mean, good. Not right before this, but right before COVID.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I sent him an email other than that. But we, it was studying with him was great.
Yeah,
because it wasn't like we would literally walk in a room. I walk in a room. He'd say, "All right, what do you want to play?" And we just play for an hour. And he introduced me to new tunes. You know, I mean, but it wasn't like practice this. It was more so, come on, let's just play.
Yeah, that's the way all of my favorite lessons were like that. Like studying with whether it was Peter Bernstein. You know, I talked to my students today about, because they're just like, well, who did you study with? And I was like, well, I studied with Vic Juris. It was the same. It's like, let's play some tunes. And then he'd pull something out. He'd be like, you know, he'd just be like digging his folder, and he'd And he would just like throw something on his stand, like, let's play this.
Right.
And then it would be like Blood Count, like a Billy Strayhorn or something.
Exactly.
You know, I thought I was cool because I was playing like, you know, my shit over Solar or whatever. Or some other cool tunes, you know, like maybe some Monk tunes I had learned, or some, you know, Kenny Garrett stuff. And he would be like, yeah, let's play this.
Let's play that.
And then I was like, oh, fuck. You know, like I could see what's on the page, but I didn't have the vibe.
Well, that was
he would
that
put
was
up tunes
like
that were
same.
all vibe.
Yeah.
He was like, you can play, but you don't have any vibe yet.
Oh man, I was Kenny Barron. You know, he was like, here, check this tune out. It was the Elm Richie Byrack tune. I was like, all right. You know, I was ready to be like, okay, 1, 2, and this tune was just like boom, bing, bing.
Yeah.
Bing. It's like play it.
Right.
And I ended up recording it, and I still want to record it again because when I recorded, I was 23 and I wasn't ready. Still didn't understand the tune.
Right.
Still don't, you know. But I mean, it was really great, you know, studying with Kenny, because he would just be like, here, check this out.
Right.
Check this out.
Exactly.
Check this out.
That's the best. That's the best stuff. And like, when I studied with Peter, it was the same thing. He would just be like, what do you know, like the one thing I hate is when students come in here, they sit down, and they plug in their guitar, and they start playing something. And they're like, they look at me, they're like, so what? I've had this happen a few times. They're like, so what have you been working on? I was like, motherfucker, is this my lesson or yours? What do you mean what I've been working on? But anyway, yeah, so Peter would just be like, so what have you been, you know, what you been playing? And I would have like, well, I don't know what to choose because I've been working on so much stuff. So I'd just be like, well, I've been playing this tune. He'd be like, cool, let's play it.
Right.
And then he would just be like, wow, that was great. There's a wrong chord change right here or whatever.
Right.
And then, but then since you're from Philly, like I took 3 lessons with Kurt while I was at, Kurt Rosenwinkel while I was at New School. The first lesson I went over, it was the only time we played. Like we played for the whole lesson. And then he was like, cool, well, like, you know, call me and, you know, whenever, like in a week or something, and let's set up the next one. And then I went over. He called me the night before. He was like, hey, man, it's Kurt. It was like 2 a.m.
Of course.
I was like, hey, man, this is Kurt. He was like, why do you want to study with me? And I was like, man, I was like, man, I don't know. I love the records that you play on with Mark Turner. I didn't know his music. He was like, do you know my music? And I was like, no, I'd seen his band play, but they were playing all standards at Smalls. I was like, no, I don't know any of your tunes. And he was like, all right, come to my house tomorrow at 10 a.m. I was like, okay. So then I go there at 10 a.m. and I walk in, and he's like, I'm going to check this out. And he just played an hour set from Smalls, the whole set.
Right.
And he burned me a CD in real time. This is
in real time, right. I know what you mean.
Burned a CD in real time of a set of his band at Smalls playing all his music. And then when it was over, he was like, here's a CD. Call me in a week. And then I called him, and I went over the next time for the third lesson. He came out. I buzzed, and he came downstairs, And he was like, "You hungry?" I was like, "Yeah." And then we just went and had bagels. and then it was, he just asked me, like, he was like, "What are you checking out? You know, what are you into?" And we just talked about music we like. And that was it. Those were 3 lessons. But Vic was the only guy who really like was throwing actual music at me.
That was kind of Vic for you was my Ralph Bowen.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Ralph would sit down and here, this is what you do over, you know, a flat 5, whatever, you know, and this is how I would do these changes. So that was my Ralph. You know, that was Ralph Bowen, and still is, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I learned from Ralph and transcribing his stuff, man. He was just like really cool way of playing over changes, like mostly 8 notes. Really, really good to kind of check out and learn from.
Yeah.
But man, all those Out of the Blue records with Ralph Peterson and Kenny Garrett, and that was my senior recital in high school. I played like 4 records off that album.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then so that's why I was looking for Ralph, and I sent him all my charts.
Right.
He sent me his charts.
Right.
He scanned. This is back in the day where this would have been 1997. Yeah, spring of 1997, and he faxed me all of his charts from that record, and with all the horn parts, and basically I was like 85% there. What I had transcribed. There was a couple of chords that I just never even heard of, that like kind of like polychords and stuff.
Polychords, yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, that's what that sound is. You know, like, But that was a cool moment for me. I was like getting a fax, like being at school
and then sitting there waiting.
I told the director of our school, this is where, you know, Glasper was going there, Walter Smith, Kendrick Scott, Jamire Williams, like Mark Kelly, all the cats. And so I went to our director, Bob Morgan. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get a fax from this guy Ralph Bowen, and he didn't know who he was.
Right.
And he was like, okay, sure. You know, I'll let you know when it comes in. And then he just came in the room. He's like, hey, Mike, yeah, the faxes are coming in. I was like, I ran to his office, you know, I was like, oh, shit, changes. Yeah, that was an exciting day. But then I played it. Eric Harlan played on my senior recital. And, yeah, that was a fun night. But anyway, bro, I know you got to get back to Philly, so I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No problem. It's been great. It's been great. It's been
super fun.
Great.
Yeah. I know that drive well, man. I've been teaching at Temple now for a couple of years.
Temple.
I've got it down, man.
It's once you're on the road, it's like, oh man,
I think of you all the time when I'm doing that drive, because I was like, I bet I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I was like, I bet ORRIN, this is like even less of a hassle for you at this point.
1998 is when I went back to Philly. So I've been doing that drive, 23 years?
23 years. So what does it feel like to you now? Like, it's just like, it's probably an hour and 50 minutes goes by.
Well, there's also, man, I don't force myself anymore.
Yeah.
So if I'm tired, I'm just like, you know what? I can have all these Hilton honor points.
Yeah,
I'll pull over at the Hilton in Newark Airport or something, and I'll actually get some sleep.
Right.
So, like, the fear, back in the day when I was younger, the fear of, like, I got to make this trip.
Right.
And I would sleep in my car. I mean, I did a lot. Those years of, like, because there was a long time where I didn't tell anybody I moved back to Philly.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Now.
You live in Philly, but I feel like I see you all the time.
Yeah, there was a long time I never told anybody. I'd be like, I'd force myself to be hanging in New York. And I'd hang, and I'd be like, and I was teaching school, middle school and high school for 3 years during like 2003 to 2006. And man, I'd come up to Zinc Bar, I'd hang all night, and then be back at homeroom in the morning, like, you know, with all my like high school freshmen, and they were like, all right, Mr. Evans, we'll close. Well, it was a Quaker school, so they never said Mr. Evans.
Okay.
ORRIN will close the door, which I hated. So they closed the door. And I'd just be in there, like, taking a little nap before school started, you know.
Right.
So, but I did that until a certain point. I was like, you know what? I live in Philly.
Right.
You know, and then I had an apartment up here for a while, maybe like 2008, 9, 10.
Okay.
But other than that, now the drive, I just take the trip, you know.
Yeah. And who else well, Osby lives like somewhere in Pennsylvania, but like kind of.
No, he's in Jersey now.
He moved to Jersey now.
Yeah, but he's like Jersey, Philly.
Okay.
It's like the part of Jersey that's closer to Philly.
Tane moved out somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Like
Tane's out in
Eric
Pennsylvania.
Harlan's always been way out there.
Yeah, Tane and Eric are not far from each other.
Okay.
Well, not close, but they're in that same
Yeah.
area.
There's a lot of guys that are doing that. I know Eric now takes the bus.
Yeah.
And he'll get a hotel.
Yep.
Usually.
His commute is not that bad though. It's actually a little less than mine, I think. You know? Yeah.
But I was always surprised. I was like, Eric was like, man, I'm going to take the bus in. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I just don't picture Eric on a bus for some reason. He just, Eric is bougie, man. It's a high class dude, man. I was like, you're getting on the bus with those watches? You better watch your back, bro. Even if it's a mega bus, I don't trust. Not with that watch. You fall asleep. Don't fall asleep, bro. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep. You're going to wake up.
I'm not doing
and
the
not
bus.
Know what time it is.
I'm not. I like the beauty of my car. I love getting in the car. Back in the day, I used to have a pillow and a quilt in the car.
Wow.
So if not a quilt, a pillow and a comforter.
Quilt. That's
I don't even know. A comforter.
Yeah.
And I would just if I got sleepy,
Yeah.
be out, and then get up, walk in the door at 7 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I got some good turnpike sleep sometimes, man.
Nice. Man, well, killing. Well, I'll let you get back to it so you don't have to pull over and sleep tonight.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah,
it's been
man,
a ball. It's been
thanks
a pleasure.
so much for coming and playing. And it was super fun. And thank you for those who are watching now and for those who will be watching. This is going to stay up. And as far as the stream that we played, that will be up until Wednesday afternoon. So you have a couple more nights to watch that and check out the music. And thank you so much. And I'll see you next week with the next guest for episode 20 is Tom Gorner, guitar player. So super excited to have him over. And thanks everyone. We'll see you.